Hello, my name is Clark, and welcome back to my personally curated purgatory. Maybe as you can see and as you can hear, I have purchased a new microphone. RIP Rock Band microphone. I mean, it's kind of iconic. I feel like I still might use it. Also, I'm dressed like a cowboy. I am from Oklahoma. I do have kind of an accent normally, but for some reason on YouTube I put my extra gay voice on, so. Gay! You're welcome. The media that made me gay. Growing up, I was a young gal, and for the most part, I was pretty genderful. I was very masculine and very feminine. And from a young age, I always knew that I was interested in boys and girls, you know. I also think of my identity a lot in terms of film archetypes and characters, because I've always been obsessed with film, for sure. Yeah, so I have two sections today talking about some media specifically from when I was, anywhere from age 0 to 12, I think is where I'm focusing, more 0 to 10. So things I saw and characters I saw that influenced my identity. So I have two sections of this video that I'm going to talk about. One is gender and one is sexuality. So I'm going to start with section 1, my gender. Number 1 on the list is Sailor Uranus from Sailor Moon. Now, I first discovered Sailor Moon when I was 3 or 4. It was a VHS I found in Blockbuster. So Sailor Uranus, also known as Haruka Tenno. She was an extremely masculine presenting gal. She wears the male school uniform. She's a race car driver, but she's also this androgynous butch icon. Turns into a beautiful Sailor Senshi who, wears the girl school uniform with the beautiful pretty powers and stuff. Yeah, she definitely holds herself in a more masculine way. And, Sailor Moon thought she was a boy and she was not offended by that at all. And then she also was totally gay. So that was definitely you can be like that, So that was definitely a staple of my gender expression and my gender identity. Okay, number 2, Mulan. Every little trans masc or butch person ever my age had Mulan. She was a traditionally feminine girl, but she didn't fit in. She wasn't accepted as much. She was kind of bad at being a girl. She took it upon herself to disguise herself as a man, to join the army, to save her family, and in the process became the best warrior in the whole nation of China, really. And still managed to be hot and flirt with Li Shang, which is that's icon behavior. It's pretty obvious, right, why she's on the list. I was obsessed with Mulan. I was obsessed with the song, Who Is That Girl I See Staring Straight Back at Me? Will my reflection show who I am inside? Come on. Obviously. Number 3, and the last one on this, is Éowyn from Lord of the Rings. Just a warning, a spoiler alert. Surprisingly, there's going to be more Lord of the Rings coming up later. So Éowyn, she's a woman who is delegated to taking care of her sick uncle who is being poisoned by Saruman. It's a whole thing. So she's in the castle. Aragorn sees her with the sword and he's like, "Oh, you're very gifted at the combat and whatever." She's like, "Yeah, but I can't go anywhere." She's not allowed in battle. Women were not allowed really in battle. And so she was like, you know what? Fuck it. And she disguised herself in male armor and went out into battle at Minas Tirith against the Witch King of Angmar, who has prophesied to no living man can kill him. And the the best thing is she's in battle and she's kind of struggling a little bit because she's never been in battle, and no man can kill the Witch King of Angmar, who's, I think, lived for like 1,000+ years. But the climactic moment is when no living man can kill me, and she's like, I am no man, and stabs him right in his invisible little witch face, and fulfills like the 1,000-year prophecy that no man could kill the Witch King. But she's no man, she's a woman. That all of these examples are like women who are either extremely masculine or go so far as to cross-dress as men, and obviously I really identified with that.
I am not a cross-dresser, but I do like to dress up. Haha. But I just mean as a little tran who didn't know you could be transgender. This was the first I was hearing about, quote, girls feeling masculine.
Section 2, sexuality. Now this is a little bit more complicated because obviously as a child you don't have like sexuality, but you have like ideas of like what like romance is, and like you know from kind of a young age like what kind of things who you're attracted to. At least for me, I knew that I was interested in boys and girls because I always had crushes on girls, but I also like dated boys. And so I'm gonna start number 1, Sleeping Beauty.
But we've met before.
Now, give me a second to explain, because I know what you're thinking.
What the fuck?
Hear me out. So picture this. I'm a child. I have another VHS of Sleeping Beauty. Think of the main 3 characters, okay? We have Aurora. Very beautiful, feminine, singing and dancing, and blonde hair, big eyes and eyelashes. Then we have Prince Philip, who is kind of dashing and handsome and quiet, but strong-willed, and he does like the sword fighting. And then we have the 3rd character, Maleficent. We have like the stereotypically like masculine prince and the feminine princess. And then we have Maleficent. She's a mysterious, dark, and beautiful witch. She's strong and independent, and she turns into a dragon. She turns into a fucking dragon. That's fucking awesome. When I was little, I just was looking at all this and was like, there's so much here, you know? And anyway, moving on to number 2. We're going to jump right back to Lord of the Rings. This is kind of a 2-parter. We have Frodo and Sam, and Aragorn and Arwen. So Frodo and Sam. This one I feel like is the most obvious one, so I'm going to start with it. 2 soft boys who are deeply in love. I mean, so obviously to me, deeply in love. A very caring friendship, at least. Very supportive, and Samwise will do anything for Frodo to help him on his quest, and also just in general. I think it's just like a very beautiful, caring like relationship that was probably one of the first times I really saw 2 masculine entities like in love. And so obviously that's going to be like important to me. And now the second part maybe needs a little more explaining. It's Aragorn and Arwen. Now Arwen is like the elf princess, and Aragorn is the forgotten king / wanderer of Rohan and the land of men. This one isn't so much about like as that you have this big, strong, hunky, powerful, but he's not like overly aggressive, but he is masculine and strong, Aragorn. And you have like beautiful, sad, sexy Arwen, the elf princess. And the thing with these 2 is that in my head, I didn't know which one I wanted to be. For some people, like I'd say, you know, for women who are like into that kind of thing, probably would see themselves as like Arwen. But for me, it wasn't about being either one, because I kind of wanted to be both. I wanted to be strong, handsome, masculine Aragorn dating Arwen. Also wanted to be beautiful, feminine, and also strong Arwen dating Aragorn. And like in my head, it's like I think of myself as both of these. That wraps up Lord of the Rings. Now the 3rd one, it's X-Men. Like all of X-Men.
Just all of it.
Now this one's also complicated because it's not necessarily any specific character, although, I mean, they're all hot. But it's not really about any specific character or relationship. It's actually about the allegory. Now, when X-Men first debuted in comics, it was most broadly known as an allegory for the civil rights movement, for Black liberation, and as the comic series has gone on, it's also been a metaphor for classism and homophobia. The movie specifically meant to be an allegory for homosexuality, but queerness. And I picked up on that right away, even subconsciously. It's like these humans they're still humans, but they are ostracized for just their subtle differences. And people argue they're unnatural and they're dangerous and all these things, but they're really not. And I just feel like I identify with that so much, even just as a young child, internally. Internally, I knew I was different. And X-Men has always been something that I just identified with so strongly. Whether it was, once again, I did watch the VHS tapes of the 90s X-Men cartoon, and I also watched the X-Men movie at a young age, and the second movie, and I have always just been obsessed with it. And I think anyone who's been ostracized for a reason, like their race, or their gender, or their sexuality, or their religion, can in some ways relate to the X-Men and their plight, and the mutant plight.
I just want to clear something up. While I had to quote-unquote realize my own differences as a queer person, Black, Indigenous POC know immediately that society sees them as different, and because I am white, I do not face anywhere near the same ostracization from society. Black and Indigenous people have to live every day of their lives knowing how society has treated their ancestors and themselves, and while I understand some of what that is like, I cannot pretend like my whiteness did not shield me from facing that reality sooner.
Anyway, I think that's probably it. I'm trying to make this one a little bit shorter than my last two videos, and also a little closer to some content that I would like to be making. I mean, the video essay aspect of this one isn't there, which I'm working on actually a video essay right now about my favorite film of all time. Ooh, I like film. It's probably not going to be for maybe another month or two. Yeah, so that's hopefully gives you a better idea of who I am. If you liked this video, you can like and subscribe.